right, Steve Palmer here again, coming at you with another riveting episode of Lawyer Talk. What they don't teach you in law school, or maybe they don't teach you that in law school, whatever you want to call it. It's good enough with me. We got Troy, our resident law student, who is here to ask what they don't teach you in law school. And we were kicking around. I do criminal defense, and most people know that by now. And you had a really interesting question about this Idaho murder case. I'll just let you state the question, and then I'll tell you what they don't teach you in law school.
Yeah. So I had some friends reach out. It's a popular case, the Bryan Kohberger. The defense is trying to.
Well, hold on a second. So the Kohberger case, he's accused of killing.
Yes. So
this is like law school, man. Give me the facts.
Okay, the facts. He is accused of killing, I believe it's 4 girls in a college town. Like he went in allegedly and like brutally murdered them, like chopped them up with like a machete. And then they didn't know who it was or any clues for like 3 months. And then they finally arrested him. And he's charged in Moscow. I don't know the county, but it's in Moscow, Idaho. And now the defense is trying to argue that they should switch the venue of the trial to leave Moscow, Idaho. I believe he's like from New York or something like that, and they're trying to move it there.
Okay. So when you first asked this question, and by the way, this is a murder case. It's been all over the news. And when it first hit, it was like sensational news, sort of like, I'm trying to think of some other ones, Lacey Peterson's murder, or it's probably too old for you. But anyway, we know the cases that hit the news, and they're just all of a sudden ubiquitous. Everywhere you look, it's in the news. Mm-hmm. And the question you're asking when you first asked it, you said you had some questions about jurisdiction. And then you asked the question, and I thought, well, wait a minute. You're not really asking about jurisdiction. You're asking about venue. Let's talk about the difference. Jurisdiction is where the case can be prosecuted. So, and generally, that happens in the county at state court level, in the county where the crime occurs. It can also happen in other counties. So if you have multiple counties and the crime sort of spans multiple counties, generally speaking, all would have jurisdiction or venue. You could prosecute the case in any of those jurisdictions. Now, venue is something different. So what you're talking about is a change of venue. So the jurisdiction, the county where it happened, where this crime occurred, has jurisdiction to prosecute it. Now the question is, where's the trial going to happen? And that is a change of venue. It's a really rare bird. And interestingly enough, here in Ohio, I always say this, all the great constitutional cases seem to come from Ohio, mostly because Ohio tends to get it wrong at the outset. And anybody who has ever seen the movies, or if you go back in time, watch the TV show called The Fugitive. So it was who's Indiana Jones? What's his name?
Henry Ford? No,
Harrison Ford. Henry Ford. Harrison Ford, Tommy Lee Jones were in a movie called The Fugitive, and that's all based on the case right here in Ohio. Sam Shepard. Sam Shepard was a doctor up in I think Lakewood, Ohio, a really nice suburb outside Cleveland, and he had a beautiful house off the cliffs looking over the lake. And somebody broke in and brutally murdered his wife. Eventually, they zero in on Shepard as the guy, and at that point, they still did coroner's inquests where the coroner would come in and call witnesses and do whatever. And they did a coroner's inquest, and the coroner sort of famously said, "I can see the pattern of blood. It matches some surgical tools on the sheets." The news media in Cleveland went crazy over this. They were all over it. This was sensational media. Shepard was summarily convicted and sentenced to life. He served his sentence, or part of his sentence anyway, right here in the Ohio Pen before we had the Arena District. And he probably walked right by old Sparky, our old electric chair, day in and day out. At any rate, he hires a very famous lawyer, a gentleman named F. Lee Bailey, to do the appeal. And Bailey gets involved, and he sort of, again, famously quotes, I'll paraphrase the quote. I'm sure I'll screw it up, but he's like, this coroner who said that the blood pattern matched the surgical tool. I wonder if anybody ever asked him which particular tool it matched, or which instrument of surgery did this blood pattern match. And of course there was none. It was all BS. But Bailey gets involved and basically appeals the case. And it goes all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the issue on appeal was whether there was so much media attention, so much sensationalism, so much negative press that it prejudiced the trial. And by prejudice, I mean Shepard didn't get a fair trial. And the U.S. Supreme Court ultimately said he didn't get a fair trial. They reversed the case, sent it back. And this is like the seminal hallmark case on pretrial publicity. And what these lawyers out in Idaho are arguing is something similar. They're arguing that there's so much media, there's so much attention, there's so much local bias that we can't get a fair trial here. Everything has been tainted. There's too much. You can't unring the bell, put the toothpaste back in the tube, pick your metaphor. It can't be fair here. So they want to change venue. And I don't know, I haven't read any of this, so I don't know what their pleadings say. But a quick headline I checked before we hit record here is that the judge said it's going to be the toughest decision he's ever made. And I don't know if that's true or not, but the idea here is, can this guy get a fair trial in Idaho, or has the media so contaminated this mess that it's impossible? And then you have to ask, is it going to be any better anywhere else? I mean, is this national media that can't be fixed, or is it something that he could get a fair trial elsewhere? This judge will have to grapple with those issues. And what's sort of cool about these kind of the Shepard case and others is that it puts directly at odds, and this is very important these days, freedom of speech and freedom of press against a defendant's right to a fair trial. And how do courts grapple with that? And in the real world, I will tell you this. A change of venue hardly ever happens. I have asked for a change of venue maybe once in my career in a death penalty homicide case I was working on here in Columbus, and it was more pro forma. I knew full well, despite all the media attention it got, it wasn't going to be granted. So in real terms, this hardly ever happens. And then, I guess I'll say one more popular case. I think the O.J. Simpson case, the prosecutors there, I don't think it was a change of venue, but the prosecutors elected to try the case in downtown LA as opposed to out in Brentwood or wherever the murders happened. Turned out to be a really stupid decision, as it turns out. But anyway, these are questions everybody grapples with. On my side, doing defense work, it hardly ever happens. And I can tell you this, they don't teach you that in law school. Nobody tells you about this kind of crap in law school, because this is real world, boots on the ground. Pie in the sky, Sam Shepard, real world, hardly ever happens.
So if they did move his venue, would they move it? Like, what's the difficulty between moving it to New York, where I think he's from, or would they move it to just a random county in Colorado or Idaho? Sorry.
Well, I mean, if I'm representing this guy, I'm going to be asking that the case be moved to wherever it's not going to be tainted by pretrial publicity or local bias. And that could be anywhere. So in Ohio, we could have a case right here in Franklin County where our office is. And because it's so sensationalized here in Franklin County, maybe just going a couple counties north or south or east or west might be good enough. Or what they're saying is you got to go far, far away. And, I'm not even sure that would do it, because if this judge changes venue, everybody knows about this case anyway. I don't know the local flavor. So it will be an interesting decision. I love this kind of constitutional stuff. It hits near and dear to our hearts, what we do here every day, which is representing folks charged with crimes. But yeah, I mean, they'll move it where it's fair.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier, like, if it crosses over multiple counties. So I met a guy, it was just terrible to meet him, but he committed a robbery in Lucas County. And then the cops did a pit maneuver on him in Wood County. And he was charged for like two different things in two different counties.
Yeah, that happens. So here's what typically happens. So say somebody robs a bank here in Franklin County, and then they flee and they commit more crimes in the same course of conduct. Or maybe they rob a bank in Franklin County and then another one in Licking County adjacent to Franklin County. And then maybe they run up to Morrow County, where they're chased down, and maybe he runs somebody off the road or kidnaps somebody. So each one of those counties could bring charges separately. Or a lot of times what I would do negotiating the case from the criminal defense side is I'll call each of the county prosecutors and say, look, do we have to do this really in 3 different counties? Why don't we ship it all here, there, or anywhere? And that way we can wrap this up in one fell swoop. If they're going to be trials, however, a lot of times the counties want their own pound of flesh. A lot of times they'll agree amongst themselves without me saying, look, Franklin County is going to take it. Licking County is going to take it. Marion County is going to take it. It just all depends on what the counties agree. I don't get to choose. But yes, each county could bring its own charges separately. And in theory, we could have 3 different trials.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, they don't teach that in law school either, because they just don't. Anyway, Steve Palmer coming at you weekly with Lawyer Talk off the record, on the air. What they don't teach you in law school, we are teaching you right here, at least until now. Hey, Steve Palmer here from Lawyer Talk. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. Check us out, all our social media. Like, share, interact, ask your own questions. We're here for you.